Hello friends, this is your friend back with a new fanfic. What if Naruto fell in love with Tsunade instead of Sakura? Episode 1. If you like this story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and leave your thoughts in the comments. Now, after years of training and growing into a respected shinobi, Naruto begins to see the world, and the people closest to him, in a completely different light. A single unexpected bond is about to change his destiny forever. Now, let's start. On a bright evening in Konoha, a blonde ninja was having the worst day of his life. He was being outcast by the entire village for his failure to retrieve Sasuke from the Sound Nins. As he walked through the streets, people showed their disgust of him as they mocked and tormented him at every turn. Hey kid, where is the Uchiha? Didn't you say you would bring him back? One of the villagers sneered as Naruto tried to walk it off. His day was going horrible. No one had a shred of compassion for him as he walked through the streets. He could see the killing intent in everyone's eyes. He tried to explain to everyone that he fought his hardest, but his pleas fell on deaf ears as everyone threatened to kill him if he dared to stay in the village. Like before, Naruto was treated as a plague and he had everyone's hate directed at him. Only a handful of people didn't blame Naruto for what happened. All but one of the rookie 9 forgave him. Naruto came up to Ino's shop and decided to say hello. Hey Ino, how is the shop coming? Naruto said as he entered. He noticed Sakura there with all the current hate she had at him. Naruto looked at her with an apologetic look. Sakura, I tried, but I couldn't bring him back, he said to her. Sakura had a seething rage as she turned to Naruto. Oh, shut up, you demon. You wanted him to go. I can't believe you are this low of a human being if that, she said as she walked out. Ino stared in shock as Naruto only stood there and took her insults. He really couldn't argue, but to Ino, Sakura was being completely unfair. Just leave her, Naruto. She needs to process this, Ino said as she walked back into the house. Naruto left the house and went to the Hokage mansion. He felt that he had had enough of the torment. He went up to the cage's room as he walked in the door to see Tsunade in her chair doing paperwork. She looked up to see a depressed Naruto. She didn't like that look. It reminded her of how sad she was about her brother and her lover. She stared at him and decided to break the silence. Is Naruto something that matters? She asked as he looked up at her. Naruto took off his headband and placed it on her desk. Tsunade ba-chan, can you give this to Iruka-sensei for me? He said to her. She was utterly shocked. Naruto was resigning as a leaf shinobi. Naruto was about to leave until Tsunade stopped him. Wait a second, Naruto. What is this about? She asked. Naruto looked at her and started to cry. Oh, what is the point, Tsunade ba-chan? I have been rejected again. Everyone hates me for not bringing back Sasuke. They all even threatened to kill me if I didn't leave the village. I can't take this anymore, he said as he stormed out of her office. Tsunade had an utterly sad face as she realized the importance of the situation. Tsunade stepped out of her office to check around the village. She saw that Naruto had confirmed her fear. Everyone hated him, she even heard of some plans to kill him. This was not the Konoha she knew. These were not Konoha citizens or shinobi. This place had become a hell for Naruto. He now had to fear for his life from his very village. Tsunade was more than pissed at the village now. She didn't even want to be the Hokage anymore to such a disgraceful village. Naruto is gonna leave tomorrow, she said to herself. She left the village and went home. Naruto was in his house packing his scrolls and bags. He was still crying at the fact that the village despised him again. He knew he could never return to this village. After he finished packing, Naruto cried himself to sleep. Jiraiya had heard the news from Tsunade and was equally pissed as well. He knew that the ungrateful villagers didn't deserve Naruto. He had helped them time and again with their problems, but no, it was always about the arrogant Sasuke. This village is a load of crap, Jiraiya said as he sat at the front gate in the dark. 10 o'clock in the morning. Naruto had gotten to the front gate. He noticed Jiraiya sitting there waiting for him. Arrow Sennin, why are you here? He asked with a depressed face. Please kid, with how this village is acting, I can't go along with this, so I am out of it too, he said to Naruto. Naruto smiled a little. He was happy to know that he had someone beside him. One of the villagers spotted him and yelled to everyone that Naruto was leaving. In less than 10 minutes, everyone had arrived at the gate and looked at him. One of the villagers looked at him with a grin. And what do you think you are doing, boy, huh? Said one of the villagers. Isn't it obvious? I am taking your suggestion and I am leaving, he said as he turned around. All the villagers jumped for joy that the problem child was leaving their village. Finally some peace, they all said. The rookie 9 made their appearance in front. Come on man, you don't have to leave, Kiba said, trying to convince Naruto to stay. Kiba's right, don't go, Shikamaru said. We can get Sasuke again, Tenten said. Don't do this Naruto, Hinata and Neji said at the same time. All their pleas fell on deaf ears as Naruto made his way through the gate. He stopped momentarily to hear the last words of hurt from someone. That's right. Get lost Naruto, no one needs you here, you are just a nuisance to us, Sakura said to him. That was the final hit. Naruto had lost everything. Jiraiya couldn't take this. He had no idea this was the same village that they had protected all those years. As Naruto left, he stopped again to hear someone in the distance. Naruto, wait, said the voice. The blonde Hokage came and stepped up to Naruto. Ah, Hokage-sama, rejoice, the problem of the leaf is leaving, one of the villagers said to her. Tsunade tried to keep her rage under control as she continued to walk towards Naruto. Shisho, master, why are you standing next to the trash? Sakura said to her. Tsunade lost it. She walked up to Sakura and gave her a chakra-enforced slap to the face. Sakura, the rookie 9, and the villagers were all shocked by this. You are all idiots, he has helped all of us time and again, this is how you treat him. She yelled at them. He has taken all of your insults and it has turned him into this. This is not the village I nor Sarutobi can approve of, she said. Everyone yelled at her about all the problems they had because of him. She could see it was no use. Shut up all of you, she yelled as everyone was quiet. As of this day forward I resign as the Hokage of this disgraceful village, she said to a shocked village. But Shisho, why are you leaving? Sakura said as she stood. Tsunade hits one of the Konoha gates as it crumbles to the ground. To do this to the boy who saved you from the sand, you are all pathetic, she said to them. Shizune nodded as the three turned and left with Naruto. He was happy he had gotten some support from them as they all walked away. The villagers couldn't believe what just happened. They had lost their Godaime Hokage and it was their fault. Furious Hinata spoke. Is everyone now proud of themselves? She said as she turned to them. Everyone turned to Hinata. We have lost one of our most powerful ninja and our Hokage because of your damn prejudice, she said as she walked back to the Hube compound. I am seriously wondering if I should abandon this village too, Neji said as he followed Hinata back to the compound. So this village shows its true colors, said Shikamaru as he went back to his house. This place, said Kiba and Ino as they left. Hey Choji, let's leave the disgrace here, Shikamaru said to a sad Choji as he left with Shikamaru. Damn village, Tenten said to them as she left. So unyouthful, Lee said as he left with Guy. Everyone turned around to see Sakura still on the ground and motioned to her. Oh, and Sakura, you are not one of us anymore, they all said as they left. Sakura could not believe what she was hearing. She had lost her friends. Sakura got up and went home depressed. The villagers, some happy and some sad and others indifferent, returned to their work. On the road. You guys didn't have to resign for me, he said as he walked with them. They all smiled as they walked to whatever destination. Oh Naruto, it is all good. That village has become a pain, Tsunade said to him. Naruto cried as he walked. Thank you everyone. Thank you Ero Sennin. Thank you Shizune Nichan. Thank you Tsunade Bachan, he said as they turned to him. Tsunade walked up to him. She felt so sad for him. She wanted to give him comfort but kept from too much for fear of crossing a permanent line between the two. She kissed his forehead like before and smiled. It's okay Naruto. You can cry, she said to him. Naruto ran into her arms as he cried for a few minutes. Jiraiya and Shizune were saddened to see Naruto in such a state. After his crying, Jiraiya gave him a pat on the back. Come on Naruto, let's go to another place, he said to him. Naruto looked at Jiraiya, Shizune, and Tsunade smiling at him. He nodded with tears in his eyes. They all walked to a new journey. Where will Naruto go? What is the current relationship between him and Tsunade? 3 days after the incident. Life in Konoha was dull now. The citizens couldn't believe that their Hokage was gone. Some were sad about how they treated Naruto, others didn't care and were still happy that the demon was gone. Man, it feels great to know that my kids will be safe from that plague, some of the women said to each other as they gossiped. Unknown to them, the Rookie 9 were unintentionally listening in on some people's conversations. Damn this village, is this really the village we all grew up in? Ino said as she hung out with her squad. I know, I can't even eat the regular food because of my disgust for this place, Choji said to his squad. This village has become so troublesome, Shikamaru said with a yawn. It was obvious that some of the Rookie 9 were not at all pleased with the way the village was running. Ever since Naruto and Tsunade left, the place has been a lot more gloomy. It was hard to believe this was the same Konoha a few weeks ago. Hyuga compound. This is so stupid, Neji said as he protested to Hinata. He didn't like how things were going. He felt that he just couldn't protect this place anymore after the way they treated Naruto. This village is no longer a great place, Hinata said. As they walked around, they saw that people who still had smiles on their faces that Naruto was gone. Hokage Mansion. All right, since Tsunade has resigned the position of Kage, we hereby decree that the next Kage shall be you, Danzo Shimura, the council said as Danzo bowed to receive his new position. Danzo was now the Rokudaime Hokage of Konoha. All citizens of Konoha rejoiced to see another Kage lead their village. Danzo could hear their request of him as the next Kage. This shocked all of the Rookie 9 except Sakura. Kill Naruto, kill Naruto, kill the demon, kill Naruto and Tsunade, the villagers shouted as Danzo heard their cries. The Rookie 9 had enough, they couldn't go along with any of this anymore. This was not the village they knew, this was a village of heartless demons. After Danzo guaranteed the death of Naruto and Tsunade after a few weeks in office, the Rookie 9 walked into the new Kage's office. He stared at them and smiled. Hello my fellow ninja. Just be patient, we will end the life of Naruto and Tsunade soon enough, he said as he sat down. Shikamaru and Choji held back Ino who had the urge to end the new Kage's life. Everyone looked at him and sighed as they took off their headbands and with their kunai they scratched a line through the leaf symbol. Sorry sir, but we don't agree with this anymore. We resign as ninja and citizens of Konoha, they said as they bowed and left to pack their stuff to leave the village. Damn it, that fox brat. Even when he is gone he still causes trouble, he said as he sat down. Sand Village at 8 o'clock p.m. Naruto was now in Suna looking at the sky. He was thinking about how things must be going back to Konoha. I can't believe my life is this low because of that mission, he said as he sulked out in the cold night. As he remembered the past events, he was brought to the time when Tsunade decided to come with him as she had left the village with him. It brought the blonde to blush a little as she had stuck up for him. Without him knowing, Tsunade crept up behind him and offered him some company. What is the matter with Naruto? She said as she stood next to him. Naruto jumped a bit to see Tsunade next to him. His action caused the ex-Hokage to smile. Regaining his composure, Naruto spoke. "Oh Tsunade ba-chan, it's nothing, just thinking about the village," he said as he looked back up at the sky. "You don't have to worry about them anymore," she said as she hugged him. Naruto could feel her warmth on his body. He blushed as he turned around and faced her. She looked beautiful in the moonlight. She had the body of a woman in her 30s, but was actually in her 50s. Naruto was still blushing as they continued the hug. Tsunade caught herself as she and Naruto decided to let go. "Why am I feeling this way for him?" she said as she smiled at him. "Ever since he had saved me from the incident with Orochimaru, I can't get him out of my head," she said to herself. Wait, is it possible that she thought to herself. No, he is like a son to me and that is it," she said trying to convince herself. Naruto looked into her eyes, he had always been enticed by them. They always looked at him with love. He knew that deep in his heart he was aching. He knew that the way he was feeling was wrong. This was taboo in the eyes of society. He was barely in his teens and she was in her early 50s. "I want to tell her, but to ruin the relationship we have would be too much for me," he said as he realized he was staring. He snapped himself out of his thinking as he spoke. Then Tsunade ba-chan, I will go back inside," he said as he ran back to the room. Tsunade continued to stare as she rubbed her temples. "Can it be possible? Do I actually feel this way?" she asked herself as she walked back to the house. As Naruto went outside to think some more, he ran into one of his old friends. "Naruto Uzumaki, how do you do?" said the mysterious figure. "Oh hi Gaara, not so well, I have been outcasted by my village forever," he said to the shocked sand user. "What?" Gaara said to a startled Naruto. "Yeah, everyone says it's my fault for losing Sasuke and they would kill me if I didn't leave the village," he said as he looked down to the ground. "Oh no, they are not getting away with this without some consequences," Gaara said as he headed for the Cage mansion. As they entered, Gaara told Naruto to stay in the waiting area. After 30 minutes in a room, Gaara showed up in front of Naruto. "I can't go along with this, so now our allegiance to Konoha is over," he said as he sat down. Naruto couldn't believe it. Suna was no longer Konoha's ally. "Gaara, you didn't have to do that," Naruto said to him. "Oh yes I did, I will not allow people like that to be situated with Suna," he said as he gave Naruto a goodbye. Naruto gave him a goodbye as he went back to his room. 3 days later. "Lord Hokage, we have received a message from Suna," said one of Danzo's personal ninjas. He thanked the ninja as he left. Danzo read the message as his face turned from happiness to anger as he read the message. "Dear Rokudaime Hokage, you and your village have become corrupted. We have heard how you treated one of your own ninja. To threaten your own shinobi shows how little you value them and how little you appreciate them. We cannot go along with your insanity. As of this day Suna and Konoha are no longer allies. If you can't trust your own ninja, how are we to know if we can trust you with ours? Your ex-ally Suna." Danzo couldn't believe it. He was counting on Suna for their help, but here it was that they ended their alliance because of what Konoha did to Naruto. Apparently Naruto was the biggest impact for Konoha. He was the reason that they weren't destroyed by Suna. He was also one of the reasons that Suna wanted to make an alliance with Konoha. "Damn it, that demon brat, he is making my job so much harder," Danzo said as he threw the scroll on the floor. "I will kill you, demon brat, count on it," he said as he laughed. The appearance of Konoha was changing. It was no longer a sunny village, but a village shrouded in the dark. People stopped going there and the business was terrible. Rumors happened that Konoha was now called the village hidden in the darkness. As the rookie 9 left, Sakura was the only genin still around in the village. The Junin didn't leave but most quit being ninja, due to the madness of the villagers. Whereas everyone Sakura said as she noticed Kiba with his bags packed. She ran up to Kiba. Hey Kiba, where are you going? You got a mission? She asked. Kiba looked at her, but ignored her and walked off. Sakura in confusion went to look around some more. She spotted Ino also with her bags. Ino, where are you going? She asked as she smiled. Ino walked past Sakura and completely ignored her. Sakura couldn't understand what was wrong. She looked for one more person before going home. She spotted Shikamaru also with his bags packed. Shikamaru, why are you guys packing your bags? She asked him. Shikamaru looked up to see her smiling. That smile pissed him off more than anything. He walked past Sakura and didn't utter a word. Sakura couldn't take it anymore. Why is everyone ignoring me? What have I done? She asked as Shikamaru turned around. He was seething mad that she hadn't realized her error. You really don't know, huh? In that Sasuke-filled mind, are you that dumb? He asked her. She was shocked to hear him say that. If you must know, we resigned as ninja and citizens of Konoha 3 days ago, he said to her. Sakura couldn't believe what she was hearing. And this is partly your fault, he said to her. Sakura didn't understand and yelled. What did I do? She yelled at him. Not being able to take her tone anymore, he turned around. You blamed Naruto for everything. He tried so hard for you and you reject him along with the villagers, he yelled at her. She couldn't believe this was about Naruto. He is worthless and a freak. He couldn't bring back Sasuke, she said to him. I doubt that Sasuke would have changed even if Naruto did bring him back. Sakura he didn't. Love you, Shikamaru said as he turned and headed for the gate. All of her friends were leaving her and she gave them a good reason too. She hit the floor as she cried. Well, fine, see if I care, she said as she sat there on the ground. All the rookie 9 left the village and began to look for Naruto. Okay everyone, let's start our search for Naruto, Shikamaru said to everyone. Everyone nodded as they took to the trees and left the village, vowing never to return. Konoha is losing its ninja and its power. Where does Naruto stand with Tsunade? How will Konoha change with their ninja leaving the village? Naruto and Tsunade were still in Suna as they decided to leave. Naruto knew why they were leaving. If they stayed in Suna for too long, then Konoha would engage in war on Suna and he didn't want that. Naruto, are you ready? Tsunade asked as she picked up her bag. Naruto looked at her and smiled. Yeah, I am ready, Tsunade ba-chan, he said as they headed out the door. When will we meet up with Ero Sennin and Shizune-chan? Naruto asked as they walked. Tsunade looked at him and with a smile replied. We will see them in 10 days, she said to him. Jiraiya and Shizune had to keep tabs on Konoha so that Naruto and Tsunade could be safe and know any information. As they bid Gaara and his village goodbye, they walked in the sand as they headed away from the village. As the two headed away from the village, both were in their own thoughts about the night 3 days ago. I can't possibly think of him this way, can I? Tsunade thought to herself as she looked at Naruto. She could see his muscular body that he had refined while in Suna. He fights his strongest, he helps others, he is kind, sweet, gentle, and, Tsunade caught herself in the middle of the compliments she was giving Naruto in her head. She couldn't believe what was happening to her. For her to even feel something for him at all was almost more than she could bear. Man, why am I feeling this way for him? He is just a kid. I couldn't possibly, I mean for me to even consider, she said as she wondered in her thoughts. Unbeknown to her, Naruto was also doing some thinking about that night. He had looked up at the woman as they continued to walk. It feels wrong, I know it's wrong, but I can't take it, he said as he scratched his head. Naruto was in the prime of puberty. He knew that loving an older woman was the common thing for some guys, but to him it still felt wrong. Every time I see her my heart aches, it aches to tell her my feelings, he said as he thought. I mean, could I really be finding her this attractive? I mean, when we first met I thought she was the lowest woman to insult the cage, but after that incident with Orochimaru and that kiss she gave me, I just can't contain these feelings, he said as he continued to think. To form a romantic bond with her was his desire, but society would never allow such a thing. After 4 hours of walking, the two started to see trees and grass as they came into a forest. Finally no more sand, Tsunade said as she took off her shoes and let the sand fall out. Naruto chuckled as he did the same. Naruto then looked at Tsunade and still blushed at the sight of her. Both were silent to each other as they walked through the forest. This silence made them both uncomfortable. Man, think of something to say. This silence is unbearable, Naruto said to himself. Just talk. Say something. He is just a boy, why am I so flustered? Tsunade said as she tried to calm her beating heart. As they walked through the silence, Naruto decided to say something as he looked at Tsunade. It was no use, he just couldn't keep his eyes on her for fear that she would see his blush. So where are we going now? He asked her. Shocked by the initial question, Tsunade turned to Naruto. She noticed the blush he tried to hide from her. She now knew that he was thinking about her. Turning to the side to calm her heart, Tsunade replied. Oh, we are going to the fire daimyo's country to try and get some protection from Konoha, Tsunade said as she walked. Naruto nodded as he walked. He knew that even the Hokage couldn't go against the fire daimyo. That was the one person with more power than the cage. As expected of Tsunade-chan, that is a great plan, he said as he smiled. Tsunade jumped at the chan suffix Naruto had used. Her heart had skipped a beat from those words. Are we getting too familiar with each other? She asked herself as she replied. Oh, thank you for the compliment Naruto-kun, she said as she shocked herself and Naruto. She couldn't believe what just came out of her mouth. Tell me I did not just say that, she said to herself as she saw Naruto blush at her. Her heart started to race again as they walked through the village. Suddenly both heard a rustle in the trees. Tsunade took out a kunai and Naruto summoned a shadow clone. When everything came into view they got ready to attack but pulled back to see who it was. We finally found you, said Hinata with a happy face. She along with the rest of the Rookie 9 and Team Guy were there. Naruto looked shocked almost as much as Tsunade. Why are you guys here? He asked them as they smiled. We can't take that village anymore, we side with Naruto. I hate what that village has become, said the various comments from some of them. We have ended our loyalty and services to Konoha, Neji said as stared at Naruto. Tsunade looked in all their eyes to see if they were spies. She studied them, but couldn't feel any evil intent from them. Well, it's great that we ran into you guys, she said with a smile. Upon closer inspection she saw they were shy, one pink-haired kunoichi. Where is Sakura? She asked them. Their faces turned angry at the thought of her. She has decided to stay in the village, Shikamaru said to her. Oh, was all Tsunade said as she looked at Naruto. He looked like he didn't have a shred of indifference. Naruto noticed Tsunade's concerned face as he looked at her clutching her heart. She looked like she had an ache in her heart as she thought of the pain he still had inside him. It's all right Tsunade-ba-chan, I don't care what happens to Sakura or that village, he said as he walked ahead. Tsunade felt a little relieved that he wasn't depressed over the matter, but she could tell he still had a few people he cared about in Konoha. Everyone turned to Tsunade. Where are you two going? They all asked. Tsunade snapped out of her daze. Oh, we are going to the fire daimyo's country to request protection, she said as she walked ahead. Everyone gasped at the new information. There wasn't a genin alive that didn't want to see the fire daimyo. Everyone rushed up to her with smiles. Can we come with you guys? They asked with enthusiasm. Tsunade rubbed her temples as she nodded. Wait, with this many people, Naruto and I might be able to separate, Tsunade thought. She figured that this solved her problem. She thanked Kami for the kids. She had no idea what fate had in store for those two. Back in Konoha, the village was dark with thunder clouds. There was no ray of light anywhere. Danzo was currently thinking of ways to get rid of the troublesome fox demon and his Sannin protector. Damn it, not having Suna for an ally has really hurt my plans, he said as he wondered about his next plan of action. Let's see, they might have just left Suna, where would they go? He pondered. Suddenly it struck Danzo that he knew. They are going to the Fire Daimyo's place. If they go there and the Fire Daimyo protects them, even I can't touch them, he said as he readily summoned a group of ninja. Go to the Fire Daimyo's place. Stop Naruto and Tsunade. Don't let them near that country, he said as the ninja bowed and departed. He sat in his chair exhausted. I will kill them, I have to, for the good of this village and the world, he thought to himself. Back in Suna. I would like you to dispatch a group of ninja to protect Naruto and Tsunade from Konoha, Gaara asked the Sand Council as they pondered his statement. Why should we go out of our way to help them? They asked as they questioned Gaara. Gaara was getting frustrated. He is one of the reasons that Konoha didn't retaliate against us and attack us after that skirmish we started, Gaara stated. He tried to convince the council of the good that Naruto had done for and how it was their turn to help him. Gaara pleaded and pleaded, but the council stubbornly disagreed and made the sand user leave. Damn this village, it feels like Konoha, Gaara said as he wondered what he could do. Gaara saw his only option. I will be outcasted from this village, but I don't care, he said to himself as he packed his stuff. He told Temari and Kankuro about his plan. They thought he was insane. He was going to be an enemy of Suna. He didn't care about that now, he just wanted to help Naruto and Tsunade. His siblings laughed as they nodded. We are in Gaara, we can't let you off by yourself, they said as they packed their stuff also. The three headed for the front gate and walked out. They were now rogue ninja and crossed out their headbands. Sorry Suna, but this is bigger than you or us, Gaara said as he and his siblings left. They knew they weren't going to return to Suna, but that was fine. Friends are more important to keep than the rules of a village. Back in Suna again. Gaara, I want to tell you that, Baki said as he went into Gaara's room to find that he wasn't there. He raised the alarm as all of Suna looked for him, Temari, and Kankuro. No one could find them. Baki made the assumption that they had left the village. Baki went before the council and explained the situation in detail to them. They nodded and issued a decree to the ninja of Suna. Gaara, Temari, and Kankuro have abandoned this village. They are all rogue ninja. Find them, bring them back, and should they resist killing them, the council ordered as they went back inside. Gaara and his group have done it now. Danzo now knows Tsunade's plan. Who will get to Tsunade first, Danzo or Gaara? Naruto and company were jumping through the trees as they ran to the Fire Daimyo's place. Everyone wanted to get there before Danzo got wise to their idea. As they all rushed through the trees, Tsunade was feeling like a weight had been dropped from her shoulders. She was seeing Naruto chat with Hinata as they all ran through the trees. Ah, well, that solves my problem, she thought as they hit the ground and decided to walk. Hinata was perfect for Naruto. She was cute, shy, and most importantly she was his own age. Naruto talked to her like nothing was wrong. He could see Tsunade was happy at the sight and felt a pain in his chest. I guess with me and Hinata, she won't have to worry about these absurd feelings we both have for each other, he said as he put up a fake smile in front of Hinata as they walked. Everyone, to say the least, was happy to be out of the village. It was a regular downpour and it couldn't have been the same village they grew up in. So exactly how long until we reach the Fire Daimyo's location? Shikamaru asked as they all walked towards the country. Tsunade turned to look at him. It is about another 5 days, she said as her face lit up the group. She had never been so happy to finally have all of her problems solved. She thanked Kami for Hinata and the group. Naruto noticed her action and became very bitter. He couldn't believe that she was happy to be over that incident with them. He felt a big pain in his chest as he gripped it tightly like he was trying to breathe. Everyone looked to see Naruto in some pain as he fell to the ground. Ah, Naruto-kun, Naruto-kun, Hinata yelled as everyone turned around. Everyone saw Naruto on the ground with a problem in his heart. Everyone rushed up to Naruto as he tried to stand. Tsunade ran over to Naruto worried. Naruto, what's wrong? She said as put her hand on him to heal him. Naruto noticed her action and swatted her hand away and quickly got up and dusted himself off. I am fine, thank you, now let's go, he said as he walked ahead of the group. Everyone thought he was fine as they got up and decided to walk. Tsunade shrugged off the sign as she walked behind the group. As the group headed to a crossroad, Naruto felt a chill in the air. Everyone wait a second, he said as he smelled the air. He was acting like Kiba, but thanks to the Kyuubi, his smell was more accurate and sensitive. He could smell the vests of Konoha ninja as they were arriving at the crossroad. Naruto turned to the group. I think that Konoha has figured out our plan, he said as Neji used his Byakugan to confirm Naruto's claim. He saw 11 enemy ninja as they were at the crossroads. Naruto's right, we can't go to the fire daimyo's place, Neji said as Naruto chose the alternate route that led to Lighting Country. As Tsunade came up to the group, she noticed Naruto took the alternate route and decided it was the best decision given the circumstances of the situation. Alright everyone, let's take Naruto's way, she said to them. Everyone nodded as they went the opposite way of their destination. After 20 minutes, the Konoha ninja came and looked at the map. Okay, the fire daimyo's place is this way, one of them said as they continued the route to the country. Having left in the opposite direction, Naruto and company could now breathe easy as they had avoided unnecessary combat with Konoha. As they walked to a town, Tsunade looked at Naruto who was still clutching his heart. He was in pain, but tried to bear it. He didn't need anyone worrying about him, especially not Tsunade right now. As Tsunade walked up to Naruto, she placed her hand on his shoulder. Naruto, are you? She was interrupted by him shrugging her off his shoulder. Tsunade was surprised at the action. Naruto looked back at her as he replied. I am fine, let's just drop it, he said as he went back to talk to Hinata and the group. Everyone had an interesting conversation as they talked about what happened in the past few days. Tsunade had a look of confusion on her face as she was walking. All of Naruto's actions to her were so different from the usual. Why do I get the feeling he is avoiding me? She thought to herself as she looked behind her to see the blonde having a chat with the Hyuga. Tsunade clutched her heart as she saw Naruto smiling with Hinata. She didn't understand what was wrong. She thought that having this group would solve all of their problems. She saw how Naruto's smile that was once directed at her was now on the Hyuga chick. This doesn't feel right. I don't know what to think anymore, she said to herself as everyone arrived at the town. Tsunade turned to the group as they stopped in the middle of the streets. Alright everyone, we will stop here for today and continue our travels tomorrow. We will meet up at 8 o'clock p.m. for dinner at a restaurant, she said as everyone gave a nod of understanding and scattered. Naruto walked alone as he looked around the town. He saw a few weapon shops and some bars. It was just a run-of-the-mill kind of town. As Naruto came into a restaurant to get something to drink, he clutched his heart that still had him in pain. Why damn it? What is this pain in my chest? He thought to himself as he received his drink. He put the glass to his lips as he took a drink. The drink was sweet to the lips as he continued to drink. His heart slowly calmed down as he finished his drink. He gave a sigh of relief as he sat at the table some more. He began thinking about the day he had. It was going horrible as he put his head on the table. Man, I hate this day, he said as he sat there. After 20 more minutes of thought at the table, Naruto looked at the time. He saw it was almost time for dinner with the others at the restaurant that Tsunade mentioned. As he lifted his head off the table, he left the bar and went to the designated area for everyone's meal. As he walked in, he saw everyone sitting down at 3 opposite tables. He saw a seat reserved for him next to Shizune, while Jiraiya sat next to Tsunade. Naruto grumbled a little, because he didn't want to deal with Tsunade right now, but he had no choice. He sat down next to Shizune and said a quick hello to the two as he sat. Alright, you both are here, let me explain, he said as he turned to Naruto, then Tsunade. Basically, Konoha now wants both of you dead. It seems that you can't get to the fire daimyo without encountering some resistance from Konoha, he said as he took a sip of his drink. Tsunade rubbed her temples as she looked across from her. She saw Naruto with a non-caring reaction as he listened to Jiraiya's report. Tsunade didn't want to see him like that. She looked at him. Where had the kind boy that she had come to see go? Tsunade couldn't understand Naruto. He would talk regularly with others, but now with her he was being so distant. What could it be? Why is he avoiding me? She wondered as Jiraiya finished giving his report. Tsunade nodded as she did pay attention to Jiraiya's report, but was just interested in Naruto at the moment. Naruto and Shizune were having a good conversation as he saw Jiraiya make a move at Tsunade. He saw Tsunade eating as Jiraiya inched closer to her. Naruto was getting more and more angry. He felt that he should do something, but was too hesitant to act. He saw his sensei give a perverted smile as his hand inched closer to her chest. Tsunade jumped at the action as she saw Jiraiya on her chest. Wow, so soft, he said as he rubbed them. Tsunade was growing a vein as she saw a kunai head between her and Jiraiya. She instantly moved out of the way as the kunai pierced the couch she was sitting on. She turned to see Naruto throw the kunai between them. Fuming, Jiraiya shouted at Naruto. You damn brat, why did you interrupt me? He shouted at Naruto as he drew the attention of some of the genin who were eating. Maybe if you stopped being a pervert for once, you might actually do good, he said to his sensei. Everyone wondered what this was about as they looked at Naruto. Trying to calm Naruto down, Tsunade spoke to him. Naruto just left him alone. Everyone knows he is a pervert, she said with a smile. Her intentions had the opposite effect of what she wanted as Naruto looked even more mad than before. Well, I don't see you resisting him at all, Ba-chan, he said to her. Tsunade had a look of confusion on her face. What is wrong with you, Naruto? She asked as she tried to understand. Naruto got up out of his seat and left the table. Oh, screw this, just let him do whatever to you. I don't care, he said as he ran out the door. Jiraiya got up and positioned himself on the couch. Tsunade immediately got up and ran after Naruto. The two let out an awkward silence between Shizune and Jiraiya as they tried to finish their meals. The rookie 9 almost left after them if not for Shizune with a nod telling them to sit somewhere on a hill above the town. Damn it, Tsunade, why do you allow this? Naruto thought as he sat at the edge of the hill. My heart hurts, damn it, why is everything like this with you? He shouted to himself. As he calmed down, he heard a rustle behind him as he turned around to see the blonde woman walking up to him. His face turned red as he got up and turned to leave. As he walked past Tsunade, she grabbed his arm and refused to let him go. Naruto struggled, but she was too strong and gave in. Naruto, what is the matter with you? Tsunade wondered as she tried to talk to Naruto. Naruto couldn't look her in the eyes as his heart kept aching from every glance he got of her. Nothing is wrong, now let me go, he demanded as he tried to avoid her gaze. Tsunade wouldn't let this go without an explanation. No, Naruto, I want to know what is going on in your head. She commanded. Naruto was losing his patience and managed to break from Tsunade's grip and turned to face her. You want to know what is going on inside my head? Fine. It's you, you're the one who keeps entering my mind, he yelled as he looked at her. Tsunade was shocked at his yelling as he continued. All of this, I hate it all. My heart, your smiles, I hate everything about this, he said, letting out his anger. But what do you hate? She asked, trying to understand. I don't know, I just hate this, my heart hurts, it feels like it will burst and I can't control it. Every time I see you this happens, he shouted. As he shouted he clenched his chest to calm his beating heart. Here is a question, how do you really feel about me Tsunade? He asked her. Tsunade was startled at the question. She tried all her might to avoid this situation, yet it came about. Well Naruto, I don't know, she said as she held her head down. Really? You don't know? Oh my goodness, I can't believe this, he said as he let his anger out over the hill. Why don't you know? I might not know either, but at least I wasn't trying to set you up with someone to forget my feelings, he said to her. Tsunade now knew. The distance, the behavior, the attitude, it was all from her smiling that she didn't have to feel the way she was at the time. Do I mean so little to you Tsunade that you would try to set me up with someone and not try to sort out our feelings, he shouted. But Naruto, the way, she was interrupted by Naruto. I know the way I am feeling is wrong, but why is it wrong? I don't get it, I hate this, you make my heart ache, he said to her. Tsunade was absorbing every word he was uttering. He couldn't take it anymore and decided to risk it. Damn it Tsunade. I love you okay, he yelled at her. Tsunade was more than shocked at that statement. Naruto continued. I don't know why I do, but I do, I love you, it feels crazy, he said as he walked up to her. Tsunade had never been in such a position before. Trying her best to speak she replied. Naruto, I mean we can't, I just don't know, Tsunade said as she looked at him. Naruto looked at her and laughed. I see, so that is how this is, he said as he walked past her. Naruto, my heart aches too, she said to him. Naruto stopped walking and turned around to see Tsunade gripping her chest. I am sorry, Naruto, I didn't want to know these feelings, I just can't see you that way, I am just not sure of this, she said as she held her head down. Naruto clutched his heart as he turned back around. As he walked away, Tsunade saw tears fall down his eyes. Tsunade didn't want this. All she wanted was for Naruto to find someone else. She fell to her knees as she cried. She looked up to see Naruto hurt from his chest. She ran up to Naruto. Naruto, at least let me heal your heart, she said as she walked up to him. Naruto got up and for the second time swatted her hand away. Just leave me alone Tsunade. You seem to care more about what society thinks than your own feelings, he said as he walked off. Naruto just wanted to get away from Tsunade before his heart jumped out from his chest. He walked as if he was crippled as he went back to the town. Tsunade fell to the ground crying. I am so sorry Naruto. I didn't want this, I am so sorry, she said as wrapped herself around her shoulders and cried some more. Tsunade now knew that she made a mistake, she didn't take Naruto's feelings into consideration when she thought about setting him up. All she did was give Naruto more hurt and sorrow. Naruto has now confessed to Tsunade, but she rejects him. Naruto is now upset and Tsunade is sad. Is this love impossible after all? Naruto stormed back to the restaurant still clutching his heart as he tried to calm it down. The talk he had with Tsunade wasn't a good one as he had been in a bitter mood from the beginning to the end of their talk. As he made it back to the town, Naruto walked up to the restaurant. Man, I don't want to deal with questions of what happened earlier right now, he said to himself as he walked in. Everyone immediately turned to face him as he walked up to Shizune. He didn't bother looking at all of the glares he was getting from his friends and his mentor. Shizune-chan, where is the place where everyone will be staying? He asked her with a serious face. Shizune had many questions for Naruto, but seeing the state he was in, she decided to ask later. Oh, it is in the eastern part of town, Hotel Senjoku, she replied. Thank you, I am going to bed, he said as he bowed and walked off. Everyone watched until the blonde was out of sight. Everyone had questionable looks on their faces. What do you think happened between Naruto and Tsunade? Hinata asked the others. I'm not sure, but it must be bad. I can't imagine how what those two just talked about. I wonder if it had to do with them leaving the village. Probably. But why was Naruto holding his chest so tight while he talked? Hey, you guys don't think? I highly doubt it. Everyone debated on the talk that could have transpired between Naruto and Tsunade. After everyone finished their meals, everyone turned to leave. As they left, they saw a red-eyed blonde that appeared in front of the restaurant. Tease Tsunade-sama, what is the matter? Everyone asked as they saw Tsunade trying to stop her crying. I have done something unforgivable to Naruto, she said as she couldn't bear to talk anymore and decided to go to the hotel. Everyone was now very interested. They wanted to know what was going on between the two. Even Shizune and Jiraiya were interested in this one. As the people came together, they discussed a plan of action. Surprisingly, Shizune came up with a fantastic idea. Okay everyone, here is what we do. Next day at 12 o'clock p.m. Everyone woke up in their respective rooms as they all got dressed. As everyone headed out of the hotel, they began to walk along the road as an unbearable silence came over the group. As everyone walked, they could see, or rather, feel, the distance Naruto and Tsunade were putting between themselves. These two were usually the life of a conversation, but now it was hard to talk about anything. Neji leaned into the group of Genin minus Naruto. Guys, please do something, this silence is disturbing, he said to them. Everyone agreed with him as they looked at the two. Shizune-san, do we put this plan into action? They asked her. Soon everyone, soon, she said to them. After 2 hours of unbearable silence, Shizune nodded at the group. Everyone finally felt happy to do something. As they came up to the next town, the guys ran up to Naruto. Oh Naruto, there is a new town. Let's explore, Kiba said to a depressed Naruto. Naruto looked at Kiba and tried to smile, but couldn't and just nodded. All of the other guys grabbed Naruto as they ran to explore the town. The girls walked up to Tsunade, who appeared exhausted even though everyone had a good night's sleep except Naruto and Tsunade. Tsunade-sama, let's go to the town too, we all need new clothes, Ino said to her. Tsunade snapped out of her daze and looked at Ino. Alright, let's go, she said as they all ran to the nearest store. The town was normal. It had the standard houses and shops that towns normally have. Nothing spectacular about it. The guys took Naruto to the many different food stores to try and lighten the mood, but to no avail. Naruto just didn't feel like doing anything, he just wanted to be left alone to sort out his feelings. Guys, I know what you're trying to do, but it won't work, I just want to be alone, he said as he walked off into the direction they planned. All is going according to plan, Yahoo, let's keep it up, they said as they followed him. Naruto turned to a store and decided to go in. He looked around but no one was there. He felt the cool breeze of the air conditioning as he looked around. He turned to see various tools and scrolls for standard ninja use. I guess they're closed, he said, but why is the place open? He wondered as he looked around some more. With the girls. Hey Tsunade-sama, how is this? Ino said as she lifted up a shirt for Tsunade. Oh, it's cute. Look, sorry girls, I know what you are doing, but leave me alone, Tsunade said as she walked off. Everyone smiled as they followed her. Tsunade walked into a shop and looked around. She could see various tools and scrolls for ninja use, but as she turned her head, she saw a small blonde looking around. It was the person she would rather avoid. The blonde turned around to leave, but saw that the door was shut. She tried to open the door but it seemed to be locked. No, not now, she said as she tried to open the door to no avail. Naruto turned around to see Tsunade at the door struggling to get it open. What are you doing? He asked as he looked at her. Tsunade answered without facing him. She couldn't handle his face at the moment. We're locked in because the door is jammed, she said to him. Naruto ran to the doors and tried to open them, but they were really stuck. You have got to be kidding, and the damn air conditioning is on, he said to her. Tsunade could feel the cold breeze on her skin. Oh, this is not good. I guess we will wait here for the owner to return, she said as she sat on the floor. Naruto couldn't believe his luck. The one person he was trying to avoid, he ended up being stuck with for who knows how long. Outside of the shop, everyone was looking at Jiraiya as he pumped chakra into the walls. There now those two can't get out until they compromise whatever is bothering them, he said as everyone put their ears to the walls. There was nothing but silence as the two sat on opposite ends of each other. Neither could look the other in the eyes. After the conversation last night, neither had the urge to speak either. 45 minutes later. Nothing but silence. 2 hours later. Still no words. Everyone couldn't believe they were being so silent. To spend 2 hours together without a word was something astounding. After 15 more minutes, everyone heard Tsunade speak. Damn it, it's starting to get a little too cold, she said to herself as tried to warm herself up. She managed to get a glance at Naruto. He was feeling the cold also. He was a little jittery as the air conditioning was on its maximum setting and didn't have a knob to turn it off. Naruto looked up at Tsunade and saw she was getting cold also. He muttered to himself as he looked at her. He seemed to convince himself of something as he got up. He walked over to Tsunade and took off the top half of his orange jumpsuit. Here Tsunade, he said to her. She looked up to see him handing her his jacket. His face was still turned away from hers because he was still a little mad and sad at the same time. She grabbed the jacket and wrapped it around her body. It felt warm as she received warmth from it. It made her blush that she had accepted such a gesture. Coming back to herself, Tsunade looked away from Naruto in shame. Naruto noticed the action and laughed a little. To think one conversation turned into this, he said more to himself than her, but due to the small space she still heard him. Sighing Tsunade, we decided to talk. Naruto, we need to talk about last night, she said to him. Shocked at her speech, Naruto turned to her. What is there to talk about? I confess to you, you rejected me, and we got here, end of story, he said to her. Outside the shop. What did he just say? Everyone stuttered trying to process the received information. He confessed to Tsunade-sama, Shizune said as everyone backed away from the shop. Jiraiya made everyone calm down as they all started to listen in. Back inside the shop. That is not the end of Naruto. I said I didn't know how to deal with these feelings. I never rejected you, she said to him. Seeing as how you tried to set me up with Hinata-chan, I would say that is rejecting me loud and clear, Naruto said as he tried to warm himself up. No, that wasn't my intention, nor was this, she said to him. So what is your intention? Was it to let me off easy or just ignore me until I found something else? He asked her. It was nothing like that. Our ages are just too far apart, Naruto. If I was a lot younger, I am sure I wouldn't have to think this hard, she said. So age is what concerns you? He asked. Yes, that is the main reason, but my feelings for you are very mixed right now, Naruto, she said with her head down. Naruto noticed she was in as much distress as he was. He didn't try to see how she felt. She was obviously conflicted by the emotions too, but she tried to handle them. He got up and walked over to Tsunade. Tsunade-chan, he said, which caused her to look up. Naruto-kun, she said as she looked to see his face coming closer to hers. She wanted to stop him, but something in her head made her resist as Naruto's lips met hers. To Naruto, her lips were surprisingly soft and sweet. As he tried to deepen the kiss, he could feel his body growing hotter from the feeling he was having. Tsunade was still in shock over the kiss. Tsunade now knew her feelings. She could the others, but she can't trick herself. She had fallen in love with Naruto. He had opened her heart to the possibility of the two. Soon memories of her brother and her lover entered her head. Before Tsunade submitted to the kiss, she backed away from Naruto and broke the passionate connection between the two. Using every ounce of her power, Tsunade broke through the house and ran off. As she ran off, she mumbled something that only Naruto could hear. "I am sorry, Naruto. I just can't. I am so sorry," she said to him. Naruto, still confused, got up and walked out of the store. "Damn it, why is this so hard?" he said to himself as he walked off, oblivious to the people who were listening in on the conversation. Everyone looked at each other and decided it was too much of a headache to discuss and chose to discuss what happened at a later date as everyone went to explore the town some more. What a day for everyone. Can Naruto get Tsunade? Or is Tsunade out of his league? Tsunade was running through the streets with her hands covering her face. Even though she covered her, people knew she was crying. As she stopped near a block of the town, she laid on the ground. "Why? I don't know what to do. I love him. I now know I love him, but what do I do?" Tsunade wondered as she cried in her arms. Tsunade knew she couldn't deny her feelings. The blonde genin had come into her heart and now she came to enjoy his presence. She loved everything about him. What scared her wasn't the fact that she loved him, she sort of coped with that, but what scared her is that she wanted to go further and explore the possibilities of a relationship with him and her. "Why did you have to do that, Naruto? That kiss has now weakened me to such a state," Tsunade said to herself as she tried to stand. Unknown to her, Shizune ran after her and soon caught up. "Tsunade-sama, are you okay?" she said as she saw Tsunade struggling to stand to her feet. "Oh Shizune, I am fine, don't worry," Tsunade said quickly, wiping the tears from her eyes. Shizune didn't buy her act for even a second. After hearing their conversation, she knew now what was troubling them both. Wow, love truly has no bounds, does it? She asked herself as she looked at Tsunade. She gave Tsunade a hug that made the blonde look shocked at the act. Shizune decided no matter how immoral it was to society she would get Naruto and Tsunade together. "Tsunade-sama, would you like to talk about whatever is bothering you?" she asked honestly. Tsunade looked up and smiled. She was glad to have someone to listen to her, though she wondered if Shizune could believe it, which she could since she heard it for herself. "Thank you Shizune, I would like that. Let's go back to a hotel then," she said as Shizune nodded and followed her. Meanwhile with Naruto. "Stupid, stupid, stupid," he said to himself as he walked the streets. "I practically lunged at her in there," she said. She was confused. "I just wanted to confirm something, but why did I do it then?" He wondered as he walked. As he walked he ran into Shikamaru, who gave him a good hello. "Oh hi Shikamaru," Naruto said with his head down. Shikamaru noticed Naruto wasn't his hyperactive self. "Naruto man, what is the matter with you?" he asked. In truth, he knew what was wrong, but to hear it from Naruto himself was a bit better. What are you talking about, man? Nothing is wrong," Naruto said as he walked away. Shikamaru pondered his idea and what he was about to do. Rubbing his head, he sighed. "Man, this is going to be a drag," he said as he did his shadow possession jutsu on Naruto. He made the blonde freeze in place and he turned him around to face him. "Well, if nothing is wrong you won't mind talking about it," he said as he manipulated the blonde to a hotel. As they walked, Naruto tried to fight the shadow but he knew it was no use. As they walked both were in utter silence. 13 minutes later, Naruto and Tsunade arrived at the hotel at the exact same time. Both walked as they looked at each other from across the entrance. A huge blush came to both as they instantly looked away from each other. Feeling the awkward silence, Tsunade turned to Shizune. Well Shizune, let's go inside," she said as she walked inside the hotel. She moved so fast that Shizune was left coughing at some of the dust that Tsunade had kicked up. Naruto looked at Shikamaru. Well, since you dragged me out here, let's go, he said as he ran inside also. Shikamaru rubbed his head and he looked at Shizune. Both inched closer together and whispered. Is this really going to work, Shizune? Shikamaru asked. Even the lazy genius couldn't figure this plan out. Yeah, trust me, Operation Impossible couple pairing is a go, Shizune said as his eyes flared up. Shikamaru yawned. That name is weird, but let's get this over with, he said as they gave each other a thumbs up and went inside. Back in Konoha, Danzo was frantic around the office. He had lost track of Naruto and Tsunade. Both did not appear at the fire daimyos like he thought. His ninja said that they waited for 6 days, but nothing happened. Damn it, where did they go? Danzo said as he looked at the map. He was clearly getting frustrated at losing the 2 ex-Konoha ninja. To make matters worse, he was being investigated by the fire daimyo herself, but she hadn't nominated him for Hokage, and felt that he had stolen the position. He was currently under probation for that issue and more than half of his powers and the Hokage were gone while this investigation began. Damn it, why is this happening now of all times? He wondered as he tried to predict where the 2 possibly were. His village was getting impatient. They all ranted about wanting the demon's body and his protector's head. Danzo managed to keep the people from a frenzy, but he was losing control and fast. I will find you, you can't hide forever, he said with a sadistic smile. Back in the town, in the hotel. Shizune, hurry up, Tsunade said as she dragged Shizune into the door and placed a soundproof seal on the space around them. They stood in the limited space and began their talk. Okay, Tsunade-sama, what is wrong? Shizune asked with a fake confused look. Tsunade looked out the window and it seemed safe. You will not tell anyone about this, Tsunade said as she held up a fist. Shizune nodded instantly as she promised not to tell a soul, which she would have too. Tsunade put her fist down. I believe I am in love with Naruto, Tsunade said with a blush to her face. Shizune pretended to be shocked. She knew she was in love, but tried to keep up the act. Really, Tsunade-sama, with Naruto? Shizune asked. Yeah, I have completely fallen for him, she said as her blush burned brighter across her face. Shizune, do you think it is wrong to feel this way? She asked as she looked at Shizune for an answer. Well, Tsunade-sama, I am not sure. I am a little surprised though, Shizune said as she tried to play being cool. I tried to convince myself that it was impossible for us, but after what happened I don't know, Tsunade said to her. Shizune was surprised. She didn't know what happened beyond the talk. So what happened? She asked. Tsunade looked up at her and blushed. He kissed me, she said. Shizune blushed as she imagined Naruto and Tsunade kissing. Tsunade snapped her out of her daze as she continued. I might want a relationship with him, but I wonder about it, she continued. My heart aches for him and his aches for me, but something is keeping me from him and I don't know what, Tsunade said as she ended her speech. Shizune processed the information and began to speak. Tsunade-sama, I believe that love holds no bounds between people. I also believe that if 2 people love each other enough for their hearts to ache for each other then they should be together. The only thing holding you both back is each other, Shizune said as she sat on the bed. Tsunade looked at Shizune in understanding. She knew Shizune was right. She loved Naruto and he loved her, so why weren't they together? Tsunade thanked Shizune and ran off to find Naruto. Shizune smiled as she laid in bed. Go get your happiness, Tsunade-sama, said Shizune on the bed. Meanwhile with Naruto and Shikamaru. So mind telling me what happened between you 2? Shikamaru said as he sat on the bed. Naruto was walking around the room back and forth trying to gather his thoughts. Shikamaru, I love Tsunade, Naruto said to Shikamaru. He gasped though he already knew about it. I don't know why I do, but before I knew it I began to love her presence as she wormed her way into my heart, he said as he continued to talk. I can't distinguish between what's right and my own feelings, he said as Shikamaru nodded. Why don't you just tell her that you like her? Shikamaru said bluntly. I think I made my feelings clear twice when I told her and when I kissed her, Naruto said with a blush. Shikamaru almost choked on those words. Are you serious? He asked for confirmation. Naruto nodded. He sighed. So troublesome. Look Naruto, I don't have the answer for you, but all I can say is that you should follow what your heart believes. No one can tell you who to give your heart to. I personally won't care if you and Tsunade dated. If you are happy then I am alright with it, he said Naruto. Naruto seemed happy to hear those words as he looked at Shikamaru. What if she doesn't return my feelings? He asked, a little sad. The Naruto I know would keep fighting until he got her to love him, Shikamaru said with a smile. Naruto's face lit up in understanding. That's right, he was Naruto Uzumaki. He never backed down from a problem. He would confront any obstacle that he faced. He would get Tsunade to love him. He just knew he would. Thank you Shikamaru. That's right, screw what other people think. I love Tsunade-chan and she is going to be mine, he said as he ran out the door to find Tsunade. Man, well that wasn't as troublesome as I thought, Shikamaru said with a smile on his face as he laid on the bed. Go get your happiness Naruto, he said as he fell asleep on the couch. After 20 minutes of random searching, both Naruto and Tsunade found each other at the entrance of the hotel. Both saw that the other was looking for them as they wiped the sweat from their faces. Naruto walked up to Tsunade and Tsunade walked up to Naruto. They both looked into each other's eyes for 5 minutes before talking. Hey you, Tsunade said with a smile. Hey yourself, Naruto said with a smile. Sorry, but cliffhanger of doom. Find out about these growing feelings tomorrow. Naruto and Tsunade just ran into each other. They had been frantically looking for each other after the conversation with their friends. They came across each other at the door as they wiped the sweat off their faces. Both stared at each other for a good 10 minutes, before words came from their mouths. Hey how are you doing? Naruto was nervous about the situation he was in. Tsunade was blushing at the sight of him. She wasn't sure if she should run or kiss him, but she had to say something. I am fine, was just taking a little jog, she lied to him as he stared at her. She didn't know why she said that, but what she wanted to say wouldn't come out of her mouth. Both tried to speak, but the embarrassing moment claimed both of their voices. Unknown to them, Shizune and Shikamaru were watching it all go down. Go for it Tsunade-sama, you can do it, Shizune said as she watched from behind a wall with Shikamaru. Sigh, this is so troublesome. He paused with Shizune's hand to his mouth. Quiet, it is getting good, she said to him. They both stared back at the two, who were still trying to express themselves. Naruto's blush was shining brighter as he tried to talk. Tsunade wasn't doing any better, she couldn't look Naruto in the eye as they stood there. Both couldn't take the silence and they stared at each other. Listen Tsunade, I. Listen Naruto, I. They both were shocked that they spoke at the same time. Both immediately blushed as they turned from the other's view. Naruto regained his composure first and decided to continue. Listen Tsunade, I am sorry that I kissed you back there, Naruto said as he shocked the woman. Tsunade decided to continue the conversation. No, that was okay. I am sorry that I ran off the way I did, she said to him. He looked up as he stared into her beautiful eyes. He was always entranced by them. They seemed to light his soul on fire as he looked at them. Tsunade looked at him and blushed. He was always there for her. She couldn't think about anything but him. He filled her with every thought. Before both knew it, they were drawing close to each other. They were so entranced by the other's presence that they didn't notice that their lips were dangerously close to the other's. Both said something as they inched closer. They didn't hear what the other said as they were too focused on the other's eyes. Tsunade-chan, Naruto said as he leaned in closer. Naruto-kun, Tsunade said as she leaned in closer. Both were so close to each other. They felt the other's hot breath on their face as they stopped for one instant to take one more look at the other's eyes. Finally found you, Ino said as she startled the two out of their moment. Shizune and Shikamaru face-palmed themselves as they almost saw something amazing. Naruto blushed as much as Tsunade as the two stepped away from each other. They looked at each other then at Ino. Both got up and walked back to their rooms with an embarrassed look on their faces. Damn it Ino, always interrupting, Naruto said as he walked back. Damn, that Ino, that moment felt too good to be true, Tsunade said as she walked back to her room. As the two left, Shikamaru and Shizune left from the wall as they walked towards Ino. You just had to come in at the wrong time, Shikamaru said as he sighed. All that hard work, Shizune said with her head down. Ino looked confused as they two rubbed their temples and walked away. Naruto went into his room and Tsunade went into her room. Both recalled the experience that almost occurred between them. I was so entranced by her eyes that everything else didn't matter, Naruto said to himself. I almost went for him regardless of the circumstances, Tsunade said to herself. I wanted to kiss her. I wanted to kiss him. I love her. I love him. Her lips on mine. His lips on mine. Screw age. Screw age. Tsunade is mine. Naruto is mine. My heart doesn't hurt anymore, in fact it feels comforted now. My heart doesn't hurt now, it feels harmonious now. I have to see her again today. I have to see him again today. Both stayed in their thoughts as they thought about the other. Before either of them knew it, night had claimed the sky as they walked out of their rooms and headed for the entrance to get something to eat. Tsunade walked casually as she neared the entrance. As she came up to the entrance Tsunade blushed at who she saw walking also. NN Naruto-kun, she said as her blush reddened. Naruto looked up out of his daze to see the object of his desire across from him. TT Tsunade-chan, he said as he looked at her. Both stared at each other as they tried to say something, but couldn't. Before the two could say something they both heard a noise that grumbled throughout the hotel entrance. Both laughed as they gripped their stomachs. Well, we can't speak our feelings on an empty stomach, can we? Naruto said as he walked to the entrance. Tsunade nodded as she walked towards the entrance also. Naruto looked at her. If he was going to do something, it would have to be now. Ahem, he said, getting her attention. Tsunade blushed as she saw Naruto stick out his arm. Tsunade chuckled as she grabbed his arm and faced her hands on his shoulder. Let's go, she said to him as he nodded as they left the hotel. 1 hour later. Both were in a restaurant happily enjoying their meals. Both blushed as this dinner felt like a date to the two of them. Naruto wasn't being his usual self. He was showing manners at the table. He knew which utensil was for a certain dish. He had surprised Tsunade as she had never seen this side of him before. Noticing her staring, Naruto chuckled. What? I can't show the woman I love my disgusting manners, can I? He said as he smiled. Tsunade blushed at the thought of his words. She felt happy to hear them. The woman he loves, huh? She thought as she smiled. Both continued to eat to their heart's content as they enjoyed the romance in the air. Across from them some of the people from the Rookie 9 were watching along with Shizune. Come on Naruto, just tell her, Kiba said as he looked back at the two. Shish Kiba, they will spot us and that will ruin the moment, Shizune said as Kiba lowered his voice. This is so romantic, Hinata said as she stared. She was a bit sad that Naruto didn't like her, but she quickly got over it and was happy for him. Tsunade and Naruto, now I could never have seen that, Neji said as he watched. Me neither, Tenten said as she watched. So youthful, Lee said as he wanted to jump at the two, but resisted. 2 hours later, Naruto and Tsunade finished their meals and got up to leave. Everyone followed behind them. I had a great time, Naruto-kun, Tsunade said as she walked with him. I am glad, I couldn't bear to let you pay, he said as he rubbed his head. Tsunade chuckled at him. He fascinated her to no end. As the two walked, they could feel they were being watched and nodded at each other. As they came to an open area, they stared at the vast view of the scenery. Before both knew it, they were staring back at each other. They had seen each other's eyes and couldn't help but stare at each other. They completely forgot that the others were watching with happy faces as they looked at the two. Naruto brought his face to Tsunade's again as she lowered hers. They still stared at each other as they came to each other's faces. Their hot breath was on each other's face as they were in their own thoughts. I love her. I love him. She is my Tsunade-chan. He is my Naruto-kun. They finally brought their faces together as they shared a passionate kiss over the moonlight. Everyone watching suddenly formed tears of joy as they saw the two kiss without a worry in the world. That is so beautiful. So cute. Nice job, Naruto. I am so happy for you, Tsunade-sama. Everyone gave their various comments as they continued to watch. As Naruto and Tsunade kissed, they felt all the happiness in the world as the heat from their bodies flowed through the air. Both stayed in the kiss for 10 minutes as they parted for air. Naruto and Tsunade's faces looked flushed as they breathed hard at each other. Both looked into the other's eyes. Naruto broke the silence. I love you, Tsunade-chan, he said to her. Tsunade smiled as she looked at him. I love you, Naruto-kun, she said to him. Both have expressed their feelings to each other. They are now happy, but how long can this happiness last with Danzo looking for them? Naruto and Tsunade were still on the edge of the hills. Both thought over the moment that they just shared. Neither cared about the age difference, but they knew that their friends and all the nations of the world would. Both smiled as they walked back to town. Behind them, all their friends were hiding in the trees as they saw the spectacular event that had unfolded. Wow, can't say I expected that, Kiba said as he was still in shock over the kiss the two had. No kidding, Naruto and Tsunade. Still can't believe it, Tenten said as she tried to comprehend the situation. Everyone gave their own personal opinions about the situation until they decided it was safe to come down. Everyone for some reason had smiles on their faces, though everyone knew that such feelings of immorality were not accepted. Everyone decided to put off the problem until later tomorrow. In the town, Naruto and Tsunade were still walking beside each other as they felt a huge weight drop off their shoulders. Both were in their own thoughts as they walked through the town. I can't believe we just did that. It felt so wrong, but so right, Naruto said as he walked alongside his newly found happiness. Those lips of his were so soft. If it wasn't for these people here, Tsunade said as she went through the town. As they walked through the town, a problem appeared that made Tsunade doubt this new relationship with the blonde. I do love him and he loves me, I know this, but this age difference is too much of a damper on things, Tsunade thought as the two walked back to the hotel. Naruto looked up at Tsunade and saw her in deep thought. As he looked up at her, a question formed in his mind. I do love her, but how can we express this out in the open with this much of an age difference? Naruto wondered as they arrived at the hotel. Tsunade and Naruto got to the hotel, but were in too much thought as they went the same way and appeared in Naruto's room. As the door closed behind them, both were shocked out of their thinking. Huh, I heard a slam. Wait, this isn't my room, Tsunade said as she looked around to see that none of her things were in the room. Naruto looked up and saw the usual, but he was suddenly startled by the person next to him. Tsunade-chan, how did you get into my room? He wondered as he pointed his finger at her. Tsunade saw him next to her and remembered that she did follow him to his room, but was in too much deep thought to realize it. I think I was thinking too much and didn't notice, Tsunade said as she blushed. She was in Naruto's room and the moment they just shared at the hill brought some rather intense images to her head. Oh no, not that, images leave my head, Tsunade said as she tried to keep her mind occupied. Tsunade suddenly saw the way out. All she had to do was leave his room. Ah, Naruto-kun, all I have to do is leave. This means nothing, Tsunade said as she looked at him. Naruto breathed a sigh of relief as he wasn't sure where this was going to go. TT, that's right. WW, well, see you tomorrow, Tsunade-chan, Naruto said as he waved goodbye. BB, bye Naruto-kun, she said as she headed for the door. Tsunade breathed easily as she turned to leave. However, Kami was not on their side tonight. As Tsunade opened the door, she stumbled across Shikamaru and Shizune who were about to open the door. Everyone stared in silence as they all had gaping mouths open. Shikamaru and Shizune recovered first. Oh my goodness, Tsunade-sama, Shizune said as she covered her mouth and blushed. This is a troublesome situation, Shikamaru said. No, it's not what you think, Tsunade was cut off by Shikamaru. Oh, it's exactly what we think it is, just let me get my things and I'll go, he said with a smirk. Naruto stared as Shikamaru packed his stuff and headed for the door. Well, I will sleep on the floor of Shizune's room. Sleep well you guys, they said as Shizune ran and gave Tsunade her suitcase and scrolls and closed the door. Both Naruto and Tsunade were left stunned. Their friends formed a big misunderstanding of the situation and now Tsunade is roomed in with Naruto. Tsunade fell to the ground depressed. Kami-sama, why? I have done my job, I pay my taxes, why am I so unlucky even in misunderstandings? Tsunade said as she comically cried on the floor. Naruto was still standing, but his mind was in the gutter. Tsunade-chan is in my room, Tsunade-chan and I will be in the same bed, Tsunade-chan will sleep with me, Naruto said as he tried to find a solution to this mess. Naruto immediately blushed at his last thought as he realized what he thought. Suddenly images of a certain erotic activity came into his mind as remembered his situation. The images were too much for the blonde as he fell to the floor, heated from the images that came to play. Tsunade saw and chuckled at him. Wow, so even he has such thoughts, she said as she walked over to him. Even though it would be unofficial to most people, the fact remained that Naruto and Tsunade were now currently a couple and couples did do certain things together. Tsunade thought as she picked up the fainted blonde and carried him to the bed and put his head on her lap. Tsunade chuckled at the sight of his calm face. 3 hours later, Naruto groaned as he opened his eyes. Naruto looked up to see Tsunade looking at him with her hand in his hair. Hey you, did you have a good dream? She said as she smiled. Naruto got up and looked at her. Tsunade's expression turned serious. Naruto-kun, we need to talk, Tsunade said, staring at the blonde. Alright Tsunade-chan, Naruto said as he sat next to her. Tsunade began. Naruto-kun, I love you, you know this, but we can't display this publicly, Tsunade said as she looked down at the floor. Naruto nodded. He thought the same thing. He knew that such a relationship would be difficult to keep as they are now. I know that, I have thought about this too, Naruto said to her. Tsunade nodded. I think that this should be kept under the radar so we don't get tormented by people, Tsunade said as she looked at Naruto. Naruto, though a bit depressed, nodded. He knew this was the only way to keep a relationship like this going. Seeing him depressed, Tsunade kept thinking in her mind. Every instinct in her body told her to not to go through with this, but she persisted through common sense. Now Naruto-kun, I didn't see we were over, we can still have fun, Tsunade said with a wink in her eyes. Naruto looked up and blushed heavily. He knew where she was going with that statement. Tsunade-chan is a pervert, Naruto said to her. Tsunade hit him on the top of his head. I am not a pervert, Tsunade said as she blushed. Naruto rubbed his head as he smiled. Well, I love my Tsunade-chan anyway, but I am too young, aren't I? He thought as he looked up at her. Tsunade smiled. She realized that obstacle as she had thought of a way around it. Naruto, how good are you at transformation jutsu? Tsunade said as she turned to Naruto. Naruto looked at her. Only good enough to fool people, not an expert or anything like that, Naruto said as he looked at her. Tsunade clasped her hands together. That's good, that is more than enough, Tsunade said as she brought her hands together. Suddenly smoke appeared and covered her body. Naruto coughed as the smoke disappeared. He stared in shock as he saw a 19-year-old Tsunade in her clothes. Naruto gasped at the beauty she had shown. She was a lot thinner and shorter than her last appearance. Naruto was still shocked at the change until Tsunade noticed and blushed at his intense stares. I take it you like this, Naruto-kun. Tsunade said as she posed for him. Naruto got a nosebleed as he gave a thumbs up. It's lovely, Tsunade-chan. I love it, Naruto said to her. Tsunade blushed as she nodded. Now this is a way around that age group, Tsunade said as she looked at Naruto. Naruto smiled as he did his transformation. Tsunade looked at the puff of smoke. She waited until the smoke disappeared. Tsunade stared as she saw a 18-year-old Naruto appear in the smoke. It was Tsunade's turn to blush as she saw Naruto's body. He had defined the muscles around his body, making him seem so handsome. He gave a mature air around him that Tsunade just loved. Naruto decided to snap Tsunade out of her daze. So how do you like this body? Naruto said to her. Tsunade stuttered to speak as she couldn't bring herself to respond. That body is so hot, Tsunade thought as she tried to contain herself. Feeling more composed, Tsunade responded. That is a good body, nice one Naruto-kun, Tsunade said as she sat back on the bed. Naruto followed her lead and sat next to her. Tsunade blushed as she stared at Naruto. She couldn't believe the circumstances right now. Naruto looked at Tsunade. Somewhere in his mind he thanked Kami for this. Tsunade-chan, I love you, Naruto said as he leaned in and whispered in her ear, causing her body to shiver. She looked at him and gave in. She wasn't going to fight the urges anymore. Naruto-kun, I love you too, Tsunade said to him. Tsunade laid back as Naruto traced his fingers across her body. She could feel her body tremble at the feeling of his touch. Tsunade loved his fingers. Naruto smiled as he saw Tsunade's lovely expressions. He had seen a whole new Tsunade as he heard her moan. Naruto gave her a deep kiss as his tongue met hers and they danced in each other's mouth. As they parted, Naruto kissed her ear as he got a slight moan from her that it felt good. He smiled as he brought the kiss down to her neck. Tsunade was feeling all the pleasure wash over her as she felt Naruto's smooth lips on her neck and his hands as they explored her body. Is he really a virgin? This is incredible, Tsunade thought as she tried to hold her voice, but couldn't due to the immense pleasure Naruto was giving her. Naruto's hand slowly reached her chest as he felt her bra on his hands. Naruto instinctively knew that this would make her feel good. He lifted up Tsunade as he undressed her clothes and kept his kisses on her neck. Tsunade could feel all of her senses fade as she felt her clothes drop to the floor. Naruto kissed Tsunade as he looked at the 19-year-old girl's panties. Naruto looked to see that they were relatively white with a small hint of pink. Naruto chuckled as he removed her bra. Tsunade squirmed as she felt one of her hidden places exposed to Naruto. Tsunade's face looked embarrassed as Naruto smiled. Don't be embarrassed, Tsunade-chan. I will make you feel good, Naruto said to her. Tsunade felt her strength leave her body as she felt the warmth of Naruto's words. You are such a smooth talker, she said as she smiled. Naruto kissed her neck one more time as he kissed his way down to her chest. Tsunade felt him go further down, feeling more and more pleasure as they continued their session. Naruto finally kissed her as he heard Tsunade give a loud moan of pleasure. Naruto now knew a good weak spot. I take it these are sensitive Tsunade-chan, Naruto teased as he smiled. Tsunade struggled to answer him as her adrenaline rushed. BB Baka, there is no way that is true, she stopped as a scream of pleasure came from her lips. Naruto licked the top of her as he played with the other one. Tsunade couldn't think straight. This pleasure was almost too much to take. Naruto continued to play with her as he managed to lay her on her back. As he kissed her, he could hear her moans of the pleasure he was giving. Naruto smiled. Well, let's keep this going, he said as he brought his hand from her and went down. Tsunade could feel where the hand was going. She ached back at each minute Naruto's hand went closer to her spot. Naruto's hand stopped on her thigh and rubbed it gently. As he heard her moan one more time, he brought it down to where the white panties were still on as he rubbed them to get a reaction. Tsunade's eyes shot open as she screamed for pleasure. Naruto chuckled as he took his hand off her panties and put them inside them to rub her wet spot. Tsunade held a finger to her mouth to try to contain her noise. Naruto began to rub her spot as it reddened and became more sensitive. Naruto brought his lips down her body making Tsunade quiver in the ecstasy of the session. Naruto brought his lips down until he came to her panties. He smiled as he removed the last piece of clothing revealing a complete Tsunade. He smiled as he brought his mouth between her legs and licked her honeypot as he heard her scream his name. NN Naruto, Tsunade said as she jerked her head around to try and handle the pleasure she felt. Naruto felt the insides of her chambers twitch from the pleasure he gave her. Tsunade begged for it to stop, but Naruto went through it and licked her more aggressively. Tsunade grasped the bed sheets as she was close to releasing all of her love juices to Naruto. NN Naruto-kun, I'm close, I can't hold out, Tsunade said as the sheer pleasure became too much for her. Naruto smiled as he increased his efforts to get her to come. Tsunade couldn't take the pleasure and gave in to it. Naruto-kun, Tsunade said as she came inside his mouth. Naruto got up from his position to see a worn-out Tsunade on the bed. Tsunade blushed as she saw Naruto lick his lips to get whatever he missed. Nice and tasty, he said as he smiled at her. Tsunade's blush reddened as she went over the events. Oh, I am getting you back, she said as she pounced on him. Naruto was shocked as he landed with his legs open. He looked up to see Tsunade crawling towards him. Tsunade stopped herself at his pants as she saw a bulge in them. Let me get you back, she said as she unzipped his pants and took off his boxers. Tsunade marveled at the size of Naruto's member as it stood erect from the last sexual act. Ah, it seems happy to see me, Tsunade said as she brought her mouth close to it. With one little lick, Tsunade sent Naruto over the edge as he groaned. She chuckled as she began to lick over Naruto's as she savored the taste of it. After a little licking, Tsunade brought her whole mouth forward and him off. Naruto was sent into a world of pleasure as he tried to restrain himself from releasing inside her mouth too soon. Tsunade went up and down as she took Naruto's hand inside her mouth. Naruto could feel the wet and slippery throat of Tsunade as she continued to give him good pleasure. Naruto couldn't contain the pleasure anymore and was released. Tsunade-chan, he yelled as he came inside her. Tsunade felt his milk enter her throat. Tsunade swallowed it all without leaving a single drop. Tsunade took this out of her mouth and savored the taste. That tasted so good, Naruto-kun, she said as she finished her drink. Naruto got up and smiled. Both had enough foreplay and turned to each other. Tsunade nodded as she separated her legs to show Naruto her wet and swollen spot. Naruto smiled as he came forward. He laid on top of Tsunade as he felt his at the entrance to her vagina. Tsunade, I love you, Naruto said as he looked at her. Tsunade smiled. I love you too, Naruto, she said to him. Naruto brought his hips forward as he entered Tsunade and gave her a rush of sheer pleasure. Tsunade had to cover her mouth as she was afraid she was going to be too loud. Naruto moved his hips slowly to become adjusted to the feeling of Tsunade. He felt tight as she squeezed him as he pushed up inside her. After a while Naruto was able to go faster and give Tsunade her biggest rush as she felt her body go numb. Naruto smiled as he saw Tsunade's face that seemed so entranced by the pleasure he was giving her. "I am glad you like this," he told her as he pushed harder inside her. Tsunade was a little reluctant to speak, but she was able to form a few words. "It feels so good Naruto-kun. I love it," she said as she felt the rush of his hit her cervix. Tsunade was close to releasing again. She turned to look at Naruto who was also close. Naruto-kun, come with me, come inside me, I want it," Tsunade said to him. Naruto was not looking to displease her. "Oh okay, I will," Naruto said as he sped up a little faster. Tsunade and Naruto lost control and came together. "Naruto," Tsunade said as she came. "Tsunade," Naruto said as he came. Both laid on the bed exhausted at the session they just had together. Naruto looked at Tsunade who was sweating quite a bit. Tsunade turned to Naruto who seemed to be void of any energy. Naruto grabbed Tsunade's hand. "I will love you forever," he said to her. She smiled as she nodded. "I will love you forever," she said to him. Both felt too tired as sleep claimed both. They unconsciously moved closer to each other as they slept in each other's arms. Outside Naruto and Tsunade's room. "Damn it, why did we have to stay here?" Shikamaru wondered as Shizune kept her ear to the door. "Admit it, you were interested too," Shizune said to him. Shikamaru blushed and got up to leave. Not in the least. "Good night," he said to her as he walked off. Shizune decided to leave the two alone. She turned around and smiled. "Be happy Naruto-kun, Tsunade-sama," she said as she walked off. A blonde couple that had spent the entire night in sheer bliss got up to feel the rays of sunshine on their skin. Naruto was the first to wake up as he looked at his blonde home. She slept soundly as she dreamt about her new love. Naruto kissed her cheek and got a slight moan as a response. Naruto chuckled as Tsunade opened her eyes slightly to see her handsome blonde fox. "Ah, thank you for waking up Naruto-kun," Tsunade said as she smiled. Naruto nodded his head as he looked into her eyes. "Anytime home," he said to her. Tsunade smiled at the nickname Naruto gave her. She was happy that she didn't realize that had appeared on her face. Trying to think of some payback, Tsunade thought of a nickname for Naruto. After a while Tsunade smiled at him. "My golden fox is so generous to me," she said as Naruto looked wide-eyed at the nickname. He suddenly smiled as he kissed his home. "Golden fox, huh, not bad," he thought to himself as he got up and went to wash up. Tsunade smiled thinking about the night she had just experienced. Tsunade was utterly exhausted after last night. Naruto had rocked her world, literally. Tsunade blushed as she remembered the past events. "I certainly snagged myself a kami," she said as she got up to get dressed. Tsunade looked into a mirror to see that she still had the henge jutsu up as she was still a 19-year-old girl. Tsunade smiled as she did a pose in the mirror. "Not a bad body, if I do say so myself," she said to herself as she stood in her pose. Unknown to her, Naruto crept up behind her and managed to kiss her next, making Tsunade's legs feel weak. "It's not a bad body if I say so also," Naruto said to her as he kissed her neck. Tsunade moaned in place of a smile as she felt Naruto's lips pressed on her skin. After Naruto's torture, he smiled as Tsunade fell to the ground with a flushed face. "No fair Naruto-kun," Tsunade said with a smile. Naruto looked down at her as he lifted his hand to her. "Sorry Haim, couldn't resist," he said to her. Tsunade looked into his eyes. She knew she could forgive him, not that she minded the tease he just gave her. Tsunade got up and went to wash up, also leaving a smiling Naruto to get dressed. 1 hour later, both blondes exited the room as they prepared to leave the town for fear of being caught by Danzo and his shinobi. Alright, got all our stuff. Let's head out, Haim, Naruto said as he took her hand. Tsunade smiled as she nodded and went with Naruto. Both exited the hotel to see all of their companions waiting for them. Tsunade and Naruto noticed that most had flushed faces as they watched the blonde couple exit the door. Shizune looked at the two as she tried to contain the smiles. She knew what had happened last night and knew that the Rookie 9 heard also. Apparently Tsunade and Naruto weren't as quiet as they wanted to be. NN Naruto-kun, I love it so much. Harder, faster Naruto-kun, Tsunade screamed as she felt Naruto fill her up. Everyone in their adjacent rooms could only blush or try to tune out the erotic noise. Oh come on, not that, please stop, Kiba said as he tossed and turned in his bed. He was trying to get all the images and noises of an erotic Tsunade out of his head. So youthful, such acts are glorious for the world, Lee said as he blushed, having sweet dreams about his training. Be quiet, stop please, the images are too much, Neji said as he tried to stop a nosebleed from forming as he slept. My bugs are getting restless from this unpleasant noise, Shinto said as he tried to sleep. If I had known this would happen I wouldn't have come with these two, Tenten said across from Hinata. Hinata was too embarrassed to say anything and decided to try and sleep it off. Yeah Naruto, nice job, Ino said as she and Choji heard the noise from the hallway. Choji was munching on his chips and didn't hear anything. What's going on Ino? He asked with his mouth full of chips. Ino blushed as she turned to Choji. Oh nothing Choji, now let's go over to the next restaurant, she said, trying to save the night the blondes were having. As Ino left with Choji, everyone was startled as they heard another scream. Oh Naruto-kun, it's so big, faster, Tsunade yelled at the top of her lungs. Everyone's blushes turned even more red than before as everyone now had steam coming out of their heads. Neji was trying to cover his ears, Hinata was out cold, Ino smirked, Choji didn't hear a thing. Everyone else had nosebleeds as they fainted on their beds. Shikamaru and Shizune were trying to keep their heads as they heard the erotic play going on in the room. He's really giving it to her, Shikamaru said as he heard. In truth, he wanted to leave, but Shizune threatened to dissect him for medical purposes if he did. Shizune kept her ear to the door as she heard her master's screams of pleasure. Is Naruto-kun really that good? Shizune wondered as she listened. Everyone was going about their own way of dealing with the intense noises. Apparently Tsunade and Naruto forgot to keep their voices down as they experienced each other. As the noise died down everyone felt they could breathe easily and finally get some sleep. As everyone tried to get the erotic vision out of their heads. Everyone's eyes shot open to the constant screams. Naruto-kun, this stamina of yours is just incredible, harder, Tsunade said as she screamed. Everyone lost their minds as they plopped into their beds. Everyone sighed as they looked at their ceilings. It's going to be a long night, they all said as they tried any means to drown out the noise. Flashback end. As Naruto and Tsunade came down the stairs, they looked at the others in confusion. Everyone looked exhausted like they got no sleep, due to obvious reasons. Why is everyone tired? Didn't you guys sleep? Naruto asked them. Everyone shot Naruto a bit of ki as they looked at him dumbfounded. Neji lost his mind. Sleep? How could we sleep when? Neji was cut off by everyone's hand to his mouth. Everyone laughed nervously as they all regained their composure. We just stayed up too late. We're sorry, they said as they bowed. Naruto looked at Tsunade, who looked back at him. Both smiled oblivious to everyone's intentions. Well, try not to anymore, they said as their faces lit up. Everyone could almost fall over exhausted at the two blondes. Are they really that dense? Kiba wondered to himself. Tsunade motioned for everyone as they followed along the road. Everyone treaded slowly on the road as they all yawned due to the lack of sleep. Everyone looked up to see Naruto and Tsunade having a joyous conversation. Almost everyone smiled at how much the two changed in a few days. They seemed to enjoy each other's company much more than before. Tsunade looked like a huge weight came off her shoulders. Naruto wasn't clutching his heart anymore in pain. Both seemed to enjoy life a lot more. As Tsunade turned to look back, she saw they were one shy person. Hey everyone, where is Jiraiya? She asked them. Everyone now saw that the pervy sage was gone. Everyone shrugged their shoulders as they looked at each other. No sooner did the said man appear next to Tsunade with a look of concern on his face. Jiraiya, where were you? Tsunade asked. Jiraiya dismissed the question as he looked back in worry. Tsunade, you and Naruto should go into a clear field. We have some company, Jiraiya said to her. Tsunade and Naruto began to worry as they knew who Jiraiya was talking about. Naruto whispered to Tsunade. It seems we stayed in that town too long, Tsunade-chan, Naruto said to her. Tsunade looked at him and nodded. I know we should deal with this, right Golden Fox-sama, Tsunade said as she smiled. Naruto laughed as he looked at her. Of course Haim, he said as they turned around to the group. Everyone was shocked by the initial stop of pace. Everyone, me and Naruto have to go do something in the woods. Be right back, Tsunade said as she grabbed Naruto and they went into the woods. Everyone sighed. Shizune knew what was up and decided to leave them to the intrusion. Okay everyone, until Naruto-kun and Tsunade-sama come back, let's head to the next town, Shizune said as everyone nodded and ran off to the next town. Plains on the outskirts of Suna. Naruto and Tsunade decided to wait for their expected guests to arrive. Both were a bit tense about going up against their own village members. Naruto looked up to see Tsunade looking more tense. He grabbed her hand and kissed it gently, knocking Tsunade out of her daze. Don't worry Haim, we will win, Naruto said with a sign of confidence. Tsunade smiled at him. Of course we will have Golden Fox-sama, thank you, she said as the two waited. 20 minutes later. 4 Anbu officers came to the plains. They were all surprised that they had been discovered by Tsunade and Naruto. Both were smiling at each other. Well Tsunade-chan, it seems the company has arrived, Naruto said with a smile. Tsunade turned to him and had a smile that lit up Naruto's day. So it seems Naruto-kun, shall we say hello? She said as she put a punch into her palm. Why yes, let's go, Naruto said as they jumped from the tree to the field. The Anbu smirked thinking the blondes didn't know their place. We have been decreed by Danzo-sama to have both of you detained and killed, the leader said to them. Naruto smiled. Well they don't beat around the bush, Naruto said to her. One of the many annoyances they have, Tsunade said to him. Oh well let's go, I want to spend time at home, Naruto said to her. Very well let's get started, Tsunade said as she disappeared. All the Anbu were shocked as one felt his mask get crushed upon seeing that Tsunade slammed him into her fist. Her being the strongest hitter of the Sannin didn't make that any better. She sent him flying as he landed into a tree and was out cold. Well I have proven my point, Tsunade said happily. I guess it's my turn, Naruto said as he stretched. Naruto faced 2 Anbu as they all had a stare down. Naruto's smile never went away. He decided to speak. I will show you guys what Konoha gave up, Naruto said as he clasped his hands together. Both Anbu laughed thinking the genin was ridiculous. Never in any recorded history did a genin ninja beat an Anbu. It was just unheard of, not proven. As Naruto charged his chakra the wind began to sway. The Anbu were too busy laughing to notice the change. Naruto smiled. Futon wind style, he said as he ran at the Anbu. Anbu noticed the charge and saw Naruto launch his fist at one of them. He ducked easily and laughed. Naruto smiled. As Naruto passed them, he said the last words that one of them would ever hear. Ryu no K's no hot dragon's wind blade, he said as the wind around everyone settled down. Everyone finished laughing as one of the men stopped. He wasn't laughing. He stood perfectly still. Hey man, what is wrong? One of the Anbu said to him. He didn't respond. Both the leader and his subordinate got worried. Hey, what is the matter with you? The leader yelled as he shook his subordinate. As he shook, everyone saw a line appear through the man's body. He suddenly fell apart in two. Both Abu officers were shocked. Naruto smiled. Well, that jutsu works out real well, Naruto said to them. Now to keep it going. Futen. Fuatsu no domu, wind style. Wind pressure dome, Naruto said as he formed a dome of wind around the Anbu. Soon all of the shinobi were encased in the dome. As they tried to get out, their breath became heavier and heavier. Damn, this dome is taking away the oxygen, one of them said. That's not all it does, Naruto said as he smiled. Soon all Anbu were getting cute by the wind. Each Anbu was trying to find cover, but it was futile. The dome was too tough and Naruto had more than enough chakra to keep everyone in that dome for a good long while. As they got cut, each Anbu was on their last legs. Damn demon, you will not win. Danzo-sama will avenge us, the leader said as he fell to the ground devoid of any oxygen. Naruto stopped the wind dome and headed over to Tsunade, who was a little shocked. Naruto-kun, where did you learn those Futen jutsus? Tsunade asked curiously. Naruto smiled at the question and looked up at her. Oh, that, well, after I got beat by Sasuke, I have been using that week to train as I found out my nature affinity. It really comes in handy, Naruto said to her. Tsunade smiled at her blonde's development. Well, Heim, shall we go? Naruto said as he knelt on one knee and held out his hand. Tsunade smiled as she looked at him. Why yes, Golden Fox-sama. Let's go, she said as she took his hand and the two ran up the trees to catch up to their friends. The entire fight took over 30 minutes. Naruto and Tsunade had just beaten their first attempted captors in a battle, with the couple still winning and staying together. As they ran through the trees, they wondered how much traveling everyone did ahead of them. Man, I would have figured that we would have seen them by now, Naruto said to his home as he walked along the rugged roadway. Tsunade smiled. Well, we have time to ourselves now, Tsunade said as she shot Naruto a smile and transformed back into her 19-years-old form. Naruto laughed as he nodded. In truth, with everyone being around them, it was awkward to do anything together, even though everyone now knew about the two blondes' relationship to each other. Naruto smiled as he got an idea and added chakra to his hands and arms to gain more strength. Tsunade turned to him in confusion. She wondered what he was going to do. Naruto-kun, what are you? She was interrupted, being surprised that Naruto disappeared. She was suddenly lifted off the ground as Naruto held her bridal style in his arms. Naruto smiled as he brought a shocked Tsunade up to him. This way of traveling feels better, Naruto said as he walked. Tsunade blushed at the sudden expression of affection Naruto just displayed for her. Tsunade's shocked expression changed into one of happiness as she nuzzled into her blonde's chest. Naruto smiled as he walked. I will always love you, Tsunade, Naruto said as he saw Tsunade go to sleep in his arms. Naruto walked lightly so as not to disturb his home. 3 hours later. Naruto still had Tsunade in his arms as he looked up to see that they were coming up to the next town. Naruto came up to see all of his companions waiting at the gate for him and Tsunade. While everyone sat at the gate, they all wondered what was taking Naruto and Tsunade so long to arrive at the town. Man, what are those two doing? Neji wondered as he leaned against a wall. I am sure they will be here soon, Tenten said, trying to reassure Neji that they were okay. After 15 minutes, everyone opted to go look for the blondes as Hinata looked up at the gate. She was suddenly shocked as she saw something amazing. I think I found Naruto-kun and Tsunade-sama, Hinata said with a blush. Everyone's eyes shot open as they ran to the gate. Shizune and Jiraiya got up from their spots and walked to the entrance. Everyone's eyes got open again and their jaws dropped to the ground. Kiba was the first to come to his senses. What the hell is that? He yelled as everyone nodded their heads. They all saw Naruto carrying a 19-years-old girl in his arms like he and the girl were newlyweds. Everyone ran up to the blonde as they were still shocked at the entrance the two blondes made. Naruto, who is that? Shikamaru said as he looked at the beautiful girl. Naruto smiled as no one knew this was Tsunade. Naruto stopped smirking to tell us who this is, and on another note, where Tsunade-san is, Kiba said to him. Naruto couldn't stop laughing as he felt everyone's stares become deadly to him. Naruto controlled his laughter as he looked at everyone. Alright, I will answer both of your questions, Naruto said as everyone started waiting for an answer. Naruto decided to surprise everyone as he leaned in and gave his blonde son a kiss on the lips. Everyone gasped as they saw that Naruto had the audacity to kiss an unknown and unconscious girl. Naruto smiled as he came back up. Tsunade-chan, time to wake up, Naruto said to her. Everyone nearly gasped as they looked at Naruto. They thought he was blind. Tsunade was in her 50s and this girl was more or less 40 years younger than her. Ino laughed. Naruto, how could you mistake this girl for our old master? Ino said as she laughed. The unconscious girl suddenly grew a vein on her forehead at the thought of being called old. The girl woke up and kissed Naruto on the cheek. Naruto smiled as he set her down. Tsunade walked over to Ino as her vein grew bigger. "Who are you calling old?" Tsunade yelled as she punched Ino into a correspondent wall. Everyone was shocked at the girl's amazing strength. This was without a doubt the blonde Sanin, Tsunade. Everyone got on their knees as they begged for forgiveness. Tsunade smiled as she turned to Naruto. Naruto smirked as he nodded his head. Tsunade smiled as she turned to them. I forgive you guys, but call me old and I will hurt you, she said to them. Everyone bowed their heads as a thank you and ran away either to explore the town or run away from Tsunade. Shizune smirked as she walked towards the blondes. Did you have to go that far, Tsunade-sama? Shizune asked. Yes I did, and by Kami I would do it again, Tsunade said as she smiled. As the three smiled they all continued to walk towards the town. Shizune turned to see a frozen Jiraiya. Tsunade-sama, what do we do about him? Shizune asked as Tsunade and Naruto looked back to see Jiraiya eroding away with the wind. Well, he will get out of it soon, I think, Naruto said with a whimsical smile. Tsunade smiled as she nodded in agreement as Shizune nodded and the three walked off to go get lunch. 1 hour later. Jiraiya was still standing there at the gate. 2 hours later. Still there. 3 hours later. Jiraiya suddenly comically cried as he looked at the town. Even the brat got someone and it was the person who I asked out plenty of times, but always got rejected, Jiraiya said as he snapped out of his daze and walked back to the town. Jiraiya smiled as he thought to himself. Oh, I have got to know about this, Jiraiya said as he walked back to find Tsunade and Naruto. With Tsunade and Naruto. The three were walking as Naruto pointed to a restaurant. Hey Haim, how about we go to that restaurant? Naruto said as he pointed to an expensive restaurant. Tsunade smiled as she looked at the restaurant, but turned depressed. Golden Fox-sama, you know we can't afford that, she said as she smiled. Naruto smiled and looked at her. Clearly she was underestimating his love for her. Naruto laughed as Tsunade turned to him confused. Haim, who said, we would be paying for this, Naruto said to her. Tsunade's eyes shot open as she looked at her blonde lover. Wait Naruto-kun, you can't really mean, Tsunade was interrupted by Naruto's smile as he took her inside the restaurant. Tsunade turned to Shizune, who was still confused. I guess I will see you later, Tsunade said as she was dragged by Naruto. Shizune stayed in the same spot as she tried to fathom what just happened. As all the information hit her, she suddenly gasped. When does Naruto have that kind of money, and did I just get left behind? She wondered as she smiled. Oh well, good luck Tsunade-sama. Okay, time to go get something to eat, Shizune said as she ran to the nearest restaurant. With Naruto and Tsunade. Naruto took Tsunade up to the entrance as he looked at one of the waiters. Hello sir, is there a table for two? Naruto asked him. The man looked at the boy then at the woman. He falsely assumed that the woman was the boy's mother and smiled. Why yes we do, we have a table next to a window over here, please follow me, he said as he smiled. Naruto noticed the man's actions and felt a bit jilted. So you think I am a kid huh? Naruto said as he clasped his hands and gathered some chakra. Some smoke appeared as the 12 years old was replaced with a well-toned and handsome 18 years old man. Oh forgive me sir, I will seat you right away, the man said as he hurried Naruto and a smiling Tsunade to their table. As the man sat the two down, both laughed at this opportunity. I still can't believe you got us into this place, Tsunade said to him. Well I do like to impress those I love, Naruto said to her. Tsunade blushed at the smooth talker that was her blonde lover. Well I am glad I love you, she said to him. And I love you, Naruto said to her. Both waited to take their orders. 2 hours later, Naruto and Tsunade were peacefully eating as they continued their romantic date. Both talked about their current ambitions since the ambitions they had in Konoha were gone. Naruto now just wanted to be with Tsunade and have the power to protect her. Tsunade smiled as she told him her ambitions. Hers were to stay with him and support him. Both had a great time together. Tsunade looked into her blonde's eyes. She was always entranced by them. They seemed to always pierce her soul. She felt so weak whenever her eyes looked into his. Naruto was happy that he had gotten the woman of his dreams. Both chose to disregard what society thought and decided to be together. In all truth, neither was unhappy with the result of their choice. The two finished their meals as Naruto paid the bill and the two walked out. In the streets, Naruto and Tsunade noticed that the sundown and night overwhelmed the town. Tsunade laid her arms on Naruto's shoulder as the two walked towards the hotel that Shizune rented out for everyone to stay. Naruto smiled as he felt Tsunade on his shoulder. As the two entered the hotel, they stopped to see everyone waiting for them. Everyone sighed and smiled as they saw the blonde couple show up. Are you two ever going to stop your lovey-dovey act? Ino asked them with an ice pack on her cheek. Naruto smiled. Ah, but then I could see my Heims smile, Naruto said with a smile. And I couldn't feel my Fox-sama's heavenly body around my arms, Tsunade said with a grin. Everyone hit the floor from the responses and tried to regain some composure. After a few laughs everyone calmed down and got serious. So what are the rooming arrangements? Neji asked Shizune. Shizune turned to everyone and smiled. Alright, the rooming goes as follows and no there will be no changes, Shizune said as she grabbed the list. Here are the roommates, Shizune said as she began. Room 1. Neji Hyuga and Shino Aburame. Room 2. Kiba Inuzuka and Choji Akamaiki. Room 4. Rock Lee and Shikamaru Nara. Room 5. Ino Yamanaka and me. Room 6. Hinata Hyuga and Tenten Kurami. Room 7. Naruto Uzumaki and Tsunade-sama, Shizune said to everyone as they all nodded and accepted the room numbers. Hinata and Tenten were the most troubled. Oh Kami, please, just don't let them do it tonight, please Kami I beg of you, Tenten and Hinata said in their thoughts. Tsunade and Naruto agreed to it and everyone went off to their separate rooms. Shizune, wait a second, I need to see you, Tsunade said as she startled Shizune. Tsunade turned Shizune around as they headed for the front door. Be right back Naruto-kun, Tsunade said as they disappeared out the door. Naruto was confused, but smiled. Oh well, no point in trying to figure something out. It might be troublesome, Naruto said to himself and smiled. Wow, to quote Shikamaru, this is a rare day, Naruto thought as he headed towards the designated room. 25 minutes later, Tsunade took Shizune behind the hotel and whispered something into her ear. Shizune became wide-eyed as she listened to what Tsunade was saying. Oh Kami, Tsunade-sama, are you serious? Shizune yelled. Tsunade quickly covered her mouth as she turned to look around. Tsunade smiled and nodded. Yeah, it is my idea of a new medical jutsu, Tsunade said to her apprentice. To say Shizune was shocked was an understatement. She was downright dumbfounded. Tsunade-sama, where did you come up with this jutsu? Shizune asked. Tsunade told her about the time they faced Orochimaru and she remembered all the power from the jewel on her forehead that gave her power. Tsunade was attempting to make a jutsu that helps the body as a whole. Can I count on your help? Tsunade asked. Of course, oh this will be great, Shizune said with a squeal. Thank you Shizune, but don't tell anyone about this, at least not yet, especially Naruto-kun, Tsunade told her. I won't tell a soul, Shizune swore. Tsunade nodded as the two went back to the hotel. Shizune knew everyone, especially Naruto, was going to be shocked at this. Unknown to them, Naruto was in his room and for once was having a conversation with the Kyuubi. So can you at least help with that? He asked. Kyuubi sighed. Boy, to even attempt that is dangerous, how can I agree to that? Kyuubi asked. Please I need you to do it, I love her, please Kyuubi, Naruto begged. Normally Naruto wouldn't beg Kyuubi for anything, but this was beyond pride for Naruto. Kyuubi went over the necessary things in his mind as he sighed. Damn it, fine I will help, Kyuubi said as he sighed again. Naruto smiled with gratitude. Thank you Kyuubi, Naruto said to him. Kyuubi nodded. Yeah, just to let you know it will hurt a little, he said with a smile. For her that is okay, Naruto said to him. Kyuubi laughed as he went to sleep. Naruto waited for Tsunade as she came in to see Naruto still awake. Did I keep you waiting for Golden Fox-sama? Tsunade asked. Not at all home, Naruto said as he looked at her. Both changed into their respective age groups and enjoyed a night of sheer bliss. Though Tenten and Hinata were happy that the pair was a lot quieter than the last time. Sure this is much better, but I still don't want this noise, Kami-sama, Tenten said as she blushed and placed her pillow over her ears. Tenten turned to see Hinata out cold with a red face. Man, that fainting thing is so handy at times like this, Tenten said as she smiled at her unconscious roommate. Everyone, well almost everyone, slept peacefully in the hotel. Back in Konoha. What do you mean you lost them? Danzo roared as he looked at his Anbu in disgust. Everyone was embarrassed when they heard the news that 4 Anbu were beaten by Naruto and Tsunade. Get out of here before I have you all detained, Danzo said to them. Everyone bowed and ran out the door. I will kill you both, just you wait demon brat and you too, you damn Sanin, Danzo said as he looked out his window. The day sets for everyone. Konoha is now darker than ever. People now rarely associate with the village hidden in the darkness. The village is not a peaceful village, but a village of torment. So friends, this was episode 1 of this exciting alternate universe adventure. If you enjoyed it and want episode 2 soon, make sure to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Also comment down your thoughts. How do you think Naruto's journey would change if this unexpected bond reshaped his future? I'll see you in the next episode.